I'm grateful tonight too for those wonderful readings on not being dismayed about, I would say, current events. I've given many testimonies of all the healings I've had coming to this church, and one of them is certainly a healing of being dismayed at current events, what I would see and hear and read in the newspapers and television. I would go from two extremes. One extreme would just be to be very fearful and upset over it, and then the other extreme would be that I would just kind of bury my head in the sand and try to ignore it and tell myself, thinking I was being Christianly scientific, that it didn't really exist. Now, both extremes were very wrong. They certainly had nothing to do with Christian Science. And so it was no wonder that I was such an anxious mess when I came here. And I am, and always will be, so grateful for the practitioner here who taught me how to handle any type of error, whether it's in the news or in our home life body. And one is certainly not to fear it, and the other is certainly not to ignore it. Any error needs to be confronted, faced, because Mrs. Eddy says in Science and Health on page 368, the greatest wrong is but a supposititious opposite of the highest right. The confidence inspired by science lies in the fact that truth is real and error is unreal. Error is a coward before truth. Divine science insists that time will prove all this. So this is where our confidence comes, not within our own selves, but with the truth. And when you confront error with the truth, it is a coward. It will back away and dissipate, but it must be done. You can't run from it, hide from it, or just be afraid of it. So this was such a wonderful teaching and learning experience in my life, and one that I use to this day. It leads to great growth and great peace when you confront error and know that it is a coward. There's nothing to fear when we're knowing God's omnipotence. Mrs. Eddy has said about error that I acknowledge your claims, but I denounce your power. And we too have that ability because God is the only power. So I'm so grateful for this. I'm grateful for those very comforting, strong readings we heard tonight. It's always a great privilege to be in this church.